So if you are watching this video, I'm assuming you have one of these beauties. I had installed these light fixtures in my kitchen about 20 years ago. Yes, I thought that time this was beautiful. So I am familiar with it as far as how it's installed. So the initial part of removing the light fixture is going to be fairly easy. I had to do this every time I changed the bulbs. So being careful removing that dome. I'm gonna remove the light bulbs. They're still good. I might use it somewhere else. And then I have to find the place where the screws went in, and that's under this insulation thing. This particular light fixture is being held by 2 screws. Right off the bat, I know I'm gonna be painting the ceiling because first of all, the ceiling is pretty old and dirty and dingy, but this light fixture also left a mark. So that's gonna be in a later video, maybe. So I'm gonna take off all these nuts to release the wires. Now, I'd just like to point out that this particular light fixture here is different from probably most because it was initially probably set up to be a 2-way switch, which is not, but there are 4 leads coming into this box, which is unusual. Usually you would have maybe 2. One is coming in and one is going out. And each lead has 2 wires in it. 3 wires in it, sorry. Because you have the hot, which is black. Then you have the return, the cold, which is white. And then you have the ground, which is a bare wire. So at this point I just wanted to get rid of some of those, but then I realized that because of those extra cables, wires, I need to be able to put these back together the way they were. And it wasn't straightforward because there's a bunch that has 3 whites and the other one has, I believe, 3 blacks and a white. So it was a little bit confusing. So I put some tapes on each wire with a color-coded ink, so I was able to identify them later on as to how they go back together. At this point I'm just undoing all these wires. They're twisted together, so it's kind of hard to twist them out. I had to use a tool to do that. Once I have these taken apart, then I'm gonna kind of tease them out and put them together as they belong to each of the leads. Because essentially they are cross-wired. So I need to put them back together to original so I can pull them out of the box. Each of these leads come in a different hole into the box. And the final goal is that I do need to remove that box. I just want to point out, obviously, that I did turn off the electricity at the breaker. It's not enough just to turn off the light. Be very, very careful because you will have hot wires still coming in outside of the switch. So be very careful. Make sure you got the correct brake switch off. The next challenge was that some of these wires were pigtailed, such as the grand wire. So the 4 grand wires were pigtailed into one, and they used this little metal ring. You'll see in a minute after I take that off. It was challenging to take that off. This took me forever. You're not seeing the entire time I was struggling with that. But finally it came off, and I did save that because I want to reuse it. I'm just trying to figure out how is this box attached to the ceiling, and I kind of figured it's going to be probably a joist that's holding it up. At this point I don't know where the joist is, so I'm going to take a screwdriver and stick that in where I know there are no cables. I did find a joist, and I am prying off the box of the joist, which the box is being held up by 2 big nails. Once I got that loose, I wanted to make the hole bigger because I need to actually reach in and pull out the wires. And yes, if you have access to the attic, you can do that probably from the top, but I have a bunch of blown-in insulation, and the last thing I wanted to do is go up in the dusty, hot attic. So this template came from the fixture box. I will be able to just trace that and take a drywall saw and cut that very carefully. You do upstrokes to actually cut it, and I am kind of exploring with my hand, with the other hand, to see if there's anything above that particular part that I'm cutting, because I don't want to cut into any wires. Now this particular drywall ceiling was really old and crumbly. Normally you would not have this much crumbling going on, and I had to actually fix this later, but normally the cut would be pretty straightforward and it would come off in one piece essentially. I did another one in this kitchen closer to the window, and that was actually much easier to cut, but as you can see it's just all crumbling down. So I will fix that later. I've cut drywall before many times, especially for these type of lights, and they do not behave this way. As you can see, it's just all crumbly. So that was fun. So now the next challenging part is going to be pulling out the wires from the box, because they're just really tight and they're stapled to the joist. So I don't have a lot of lead to bend and pull at the same time. This part probably took me about 20 minutes to do. And of course, the blown-in insulation from the top is falling all over the place. So that was not fun, but it's doable. There's the first one that came out of the box. And then of course I did the other 3. Of course, the drywall is just crumbly. As I said, it's just really old and may have been wet before or something to that effect, but this is not what normally would happen as far as the drywall goes. Now I got my wires out of the box. Now I'm gonna try to pry off the box all the way. I'm using a big screwdriver to do that so it doesn't break on me. There it went. So this is what it looks like while it's still attached to the joist. Those two big nails holding it up. It's being pulled out now with the screwdriver. And hopefully I can get that out fairly quickly, and which I did. So that's just really what's holding it up. And there's the box. That's what it looks like with the big nails. That's how it used to be up there, attached to the joist. Now I'm gonna be trying to match them up again as far as the wires go, how they used to be together. As I said, some of these were pigtailed and some of them were just wire knotted together. So those little pieces of tape helping me to identify what goes together, and I'm trying to make them so they're not under tension too much. And then I'm gonna twist them with that tool again, just a plain old plier. So in my case, the white cables were 3 of them together and pigtailed. That's where the pigtail comes in. And the wire nut, make sure that I twist it as long as it can be twisted, and then make sure that it's holding nice and tight, nothing is loose. I had to do the same for the 3 black wires and 1 white wire, I think I had to put together, which was a kind of weird configuration to me, but that's how it was. So those were not pigtail, they were just basically put together and not used in this particular light fixture connection. Again, this would be not a typical way of wiring things. I think again that they were planning to do a 2-way switch, but it never was implemented. Each of my lights actually have its own switch. They're not connected as far as the switches go. So the 3 black and 1 white will just be tied together with a wire nut, and it's just gonna sit in its own little pocket later on. Now, I also have used some electric tape to kind of go over the entire thing, only because that's gonna be outside of the connection box. So now I have my white pigtail, I have one black wire, and I have also my ground together into a pigtail. This is the box that comes with your light fixture usually, and they're all different probably a little bit, but make sure that in the punch out you do have a protective little nut where the wire is going to come into the box. You don't want the edges of the box to cut your wire. So pull all your wires into the box that will be actually connected to the light fixture. In my case, I have a pigtailed white, so that's one white. I have one single black for the hot, and I have a pigtailed ground wires into one lead that's gonna be in the box. I pull those all in and connect them to their corresponding fixture wire. And this particular box has just a push-in type of connection. So that green one is the ground, and then I'm just going to push it into that corresponding hole that's coming from the ceiling. Make sure it clicks in nice and tight and you're not able to pull it out easily. Then I was working on the black one, so I have a single black wire coming from the ceiling. Push that in. And then lastly, I connected the white one the same way. This one, because it was a pigtailed wire, it had to be twisted a little bit, so I can put it in nice and tight. So certainly this was the easiest part of the whole installation. Now what you want to do is just carefully tuck everything into the box that actually belongs there, which is your 3 connected wire set. And then you can just lock the box. Now the end of that wire that comes out of the box will very easily fit into the actual light fixture. And at this point I just want to test it, so I'm connecting it. It only goes in one way, so you can't really mess that up. And then you just screw the sleeve on it that will keep it together. And here's where I turned on the breaker and trying out the light itself. This light is adjustable to different warmth. As you can see, I'm just trying it out which one I like. And I'm gonna go back and turn off my breaker again. At this point it's again turned off, and just pushing everything into the ceiling, and now I'm clipping on the light fixture. Ignore the fact that I haven't fixed the drywall yet, but it is up on the wall. Once I fix the drywall, this will fit in snugly. Of course, where the original light fixture was, I will have to paint the ceiling anyway.